Welcome to Behind the Curtain, Nashville's movers, shakers,
and tastemakers.
Brought to you by Chord Real Estate, your key to the heart of Nashville. I'm Steve Luther alongside my co-host Van Hoy.
Here we peel back the layers of Nashville's vibrant scene, sitting down with the innovators, creators, and leaders who shape our city. From music to business and everything in between, we dive into the journeys that have brought them to where they are today.
We're here to uncover the stories behind the success, the passion driving their pursuits, and why they've chosen Nashville as their stage. It's about the people who dream big, push boundaries, and make this city truly unique.
So join us as we explore the heart and soul of Nashville through the eyes of those who know it best.
Well, today we are honored to feature Matt Wilson, a seasoned expert in security and defense, and the visionary behind Special Operations Contingent Group Inc., SOCG, with a distinguished background that includes over 2 decades in U.S. Special Operations and significant roles in security training and operations management. Matt has leveraged his expertise to enhance safety protocols in various sectors, including schools, places of worship, and corporate environments. Through his innovative iMatter program, Matt provides vital training and preparedness strategies, integrating battle-tested techniques to ensure robust security measures are accessible to all. His work not only empowers individuals, but also instills a sense of security across communities, making everyday environments safer for everyone. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Serious business here.
Great introduction. Wow. I like it. So,
well, let's jump into your story. So, talk to us about, how you got into special operations and kind of go from there.
Tell us what you can tell us.
Yeah.
Without having to kill us.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want that on my hands. Okay. Now, it started probably when I was 10 years old, and it was, I was.
Wow, they recruit young.
No. That's when I got the idea from my dad.
Oh, okay.
So
I was like, man, this is multi-generational.
So now I got the idea from my dad. He was in the Army Reserves and all that. And just talking to him and everything, I asked him, it's like, what's the best soldier out there? And he said, the Rangers. And I was like, it was like the Holy Grail went off. I was like, I've got to be one of those. And so I'd say for the next 7 years, until I was 17, that's all I did. I studied them. I watched, everything I possibly could on them. And of course, back then we had to go to the library. We didn't have this whole internet thing. And
sure.
So, just when time came, my recruiter, put papers down. He's like, time to sign. And that's, I went in a month after my high school graduation, July of 88. So I went in.
Did they come in with the ASVAB Test? Is that what it
was?
I
had to do all those tests.
Oh, yeah.
From what I remember. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They brought the ASVAB into our school, right? And I'm the same year as you, by the way. And we took the test, and they came back. The recruiter came, and he called me, and he kept calling and calling. It's like, oh, you scored so high in this thing. We did. And I was like, you have not met me. And he kept saying, no, we want. And I'm like, no, if you met me in person, you'd understand. You don't want this. Oh my!
I don't know if I could picture you in special forces.
I couldn't either. Or they could picture it as long as they didn't see me. Oh my goodness!
Poster child.
Can't even imagine.
So I went in, went through the whole thing, basic training,
right,
and then got assigned to Fort Lewis, Washington, with the 2nd Marine Battalion up there. Spent 5 years there, and then left there, went down to Florida. I was a Ranger instructor down there for 2 years, and then went over to 1st Marine Battalion. And then eventually made my way to Special Forces. And then from there went to Special Missions Unit over Delta Force.
Wow.
As, direct support, doing, good things over there. And then ended up just retiring. And then that was probably 26 plus years, of that. And then immediately got right into the private sector and military sector of taking all my skill set and training, all the next generation of warriors.
Right.
So, yeah, it was.
Unfortunately, we still need warriors.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah, we absolutely do. So,
no, I know a lot of guys coming out of the military, moving into the private sector, have a difficult time. There's some different terminology and Was it a difficult transition for you, or because of the field you went into?
It was a mix. I'd say it was a mix. I had some really good people helping me when I got out, steering me in the right way. Um, did a lot more, I think, private contracting, as in like working for these different private corporations, teaching, military law enforcement, priming for them. So that still that speak was still there,
Right.
and it was allowing me to go out, touch magic, come back home, and everything else, which was nice. Then started getting into the private sector, civilian side and everything else, and that's where kind of dumbing down the acronyms, because that's all we use is acronyms and all that. So I had to really change the way I speak to someone and instruct and all that, so they understood.
Sure.
Instead of shortening everything, I had to spell it out for them. But it wasn't bad. I mean, I quickly caught on.
Right.
So
that's good.
So when did you start the SOCG?
That was January 2015. So
Okay.
I retired in June of 2015. So I wanted I was told by a couple of good friends, like, get your company started now. And so I did. And I think I came off a little too robust, because I was like, I can do it all. I can do all the land warfare. I can do all the maritime ops. I can do all this other stuff. And over the years, I just learned it's like, get a nice niche, what you need to do and all that. And I wish I would have known that early on, because everybody can shoot, everybody can drive and all that. What I bring to the table is all the breaching. Like the surreptitious entry, like how to get through doors, offices, hotels, stuff like that. Like the heavy breaching, getting through, walls, windows, stuff like that.
Man.
And then all the other stuff in between for that. And so I wish I would have really, really focused on that when I first got out. But it was a good learning point for me.
That's so impressive. I think if I had done it, I'd have gone into like yacht safety or something.
I tried that. I actually tried to get into the maritime ops.
I'm saying.
So you're absolutely right.
I'm just, what if you're gonna do it?
Well, I tried getting into the port security and everything else, and that's a whole nother like beast, trying to get into that and everything else. So it's there's so many different venues that you can go into and go after, but I do like that idea.
I'm just saying, you got all these Bitcoin billionaires and their yachts now, they need somebody.
They do.
I think it's still a niche. So, it's possible.
Oh yeah.
So integrating these special forces strategies into a civilian setting, was there an inspiration for that? Was there an event? I mean, I know there's been a lot of things over the years happening in schools and things like that. Was there something that kind of led you to this direction where I really want to be able to take these skills and help?
Yes. So the Covenant shooting, that was kind of pivotal for me and some of my guys. Once we heard that, because you spend all this time fighting the bad guys, to keep them at bay,
right? And
then all of a sudden they're in your backyard.
That's right.
They're hurting your people, your children, and everything else. And it struck a chord with me. So within 5 days after the shooting, I already had a team together, had a program put together, started implementing that, and that was the pivotal point for me was Covenant. That that was in our backyard. That struck home.
Did you know somebody connected, or did you?
I did not. Okay. It's now I have met some people that have known people over there, or that were a teacher at a certain school that they used to work at the Covenant and everything else. So through working with different schools and all that, I've got to meet some of those people and all that. And again, it's we need to protect our kids, protect our teachers.
Absolutely.
So.
Terrific.
You had a connection, didn't you?
Yeah. It's with the very first of all the big mass ones, but even before the one in Colorado is the one in Paducah.
Oh, really?
And I had a real deep connection, and that's a whole story. But we're not here to talk about Van. But Nicole Hadley, God bless her and her family. I'm telling you, and even with the Covenant, I had a real deep connection there. So,
wow.
And it's unbelievable how it affects lives, and
It does. It ultimately, hurts not only families, but
Right.
communities and everything else
Oh
around it.
yeah.
And it has
Well,
that,
they cross a line there that just can't be crossed.
well, their moral compass goes wrong.
That's right.
It goes awry. And then,
That's right.
it's like, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we're here to help put a stop to that,
Right.
or
Right.
at least mitigate the risk and everything else. And give our kids and our teachers a fighting chance.
That's right.
Because those teachers are our first line defense for our children at the schools.
They
They don't have
sure
an
are.
SRO, or they don't have a security officer.
They
So
sure are.
they're the
That
ones
and
that need the
prayer.
training. There
Got
you
to
go.
pray over those schools. I do every day.
So very good. So
So the iMatter program you started, that's designed to equip individuals with knowledge of how to handle active shooter situations. Can you walk us through the core components of that and how that's adapted for non-military?
I can. So basically, it's a 5-step protocol that what we have. So the
Mhm.
first step is, once we meet with the client, we give them a security questionnaire. And the security questionnaire is very, it's straight to the point for what we need to gather off that. And so once they go through, answer that, get it back to us, we'll go over, and we have a very strong analysis that we go through on that. Once we go through that analysis based off their questionnaire, sit down with the client, and then once we sit down with the client, we explain to them, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what a
Right.
high abuse approach, and threat areas. So we go through all that with them and kind of open their eyes to what they have and what they don't have, and what they need to fix and what needs to be strengthened. So once we do that, we then go ahead and line up an appointment with them, and we come in, we do our exterior assessment, go through everything. We then go ahead and meet with them again for an interior assessment. And then once those assessments are done, we're working with them. We're basically putting it into a whole, a small booklet, a quick read that they can go through and see what their risks are and what they can do about it, how to fix it, and everything else. And so next step after that is we go into their emergency action plan. So the emergency action plan, we go in, review it, audit, and everything else. And a lot of schools don't realize that once they make these improvements to the schools, they have to change their emergency action plan.
Right.
Because if they don't change their emergency action plan, they're using old plans with new implements.
Right.
And sometimes it may work, but a lot of times it won't, because you now have improved locks. You now have maybe a designated safe room. So these have got to be changed. They've got to be audited. They've got to look at and their program, and reevaluate it, improve it.
Is this mostly for private schools and companies and businesses?
It actually goes across. We have it broken down for 4 institutions. So you have your schools, you have your places of worship,
Right.
you have your high end residential, and you also have your corporations. But it can be applied to pretty much anything you want it to.
Got it.
And if the whole program doesn't apply to that one institution, well, then we can piecemeal that.
So I can call you if I'm a small business owner, or if I have a school, or.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's modifiable. It's customizable to your needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the one thing we don't like is a cookie cutter template that we got to throw upon you. And that goes with your emergency action plans, because a lot of companies will do that. You get these like government templates and everything else that they have to follow. And it's like you watch a 2-hour class or PowerPoint. You're like,
Sure.
Okay, I can go out and do, threat assessments, like teachers and everything
Mhm.
else. And, that's their crisis response team. Well, you look at my 26 plus years of special ops, and then you look at my 9 plus years of working in the private sector with, foreign and, U.S. military, working with, host nation police overseas. All that comes into play. So
Right.
it's you're talking 30 plus years of experience that's going into your schools. And I look at the schools differently. And I got this when I was working with over at Delta. I use my covert methods of entry training to look at a building. It's like, okay, if I'm a bad guy, how am I going to get in here? I've got a whole nother skill set that just takes from, blunt force trauma to surgical precision trying to get in. And we use that experience to, make that school that much stronger.
Right.
And so we base a lot of our experience, a lot of our training, and put that back into the school to keep the teachers, keep the students safe and everything else. And we also, can work with and will train, the SROs, the law enforcement and everything else. Some things they have problems with that, and I don't want to, it's not a blanket statement or anything else like that, but, like command and control, like the outside, what happens on the outside going from, a cold zone all the way to the hot zone, so we work with them on that because we have years of working in, what we call a TOC, Tactical Operations Center. So that's where we have all these, different units, all these different, militaries, all these different agencies under one umbrella, and we're all working together under one building. Well, same goes for, the law enforcement, EMS, fire department, they all have to work together. And then there's also state and, other agencies. So how do they bridge that gap? Right. That's where we come into play. And that's where we're like, okay, this is where we can help you. This is where we can go ahead and give you sustainable training that will carry on to if it does and when it does happen.
This sounds pricey to me. I'm just saying, if I'm a small business owner or a head of a small private school or something, how do people? Is there an affordable way to get you in the door, or is it? It just seems like
there's not one price.
Once there's something in the news, the phone will ring.
There's not one price fits all.
Right.
It's we take.
How do you get the word out that this is something they can afford that they can't afford not to do?
Well, we try. Well, so I've got a sales team that works for me that makes the emails and calls and everything else that lines up different people for us to go ahead and do VTCs with teleconference and all that. Sit down, talk with them, explain to them what we have, and then get to meet them in person and then walk through everything. So we do that. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook. So
I was going to say, I think he needs a reality show. There used to be a TV show, I think it was on Discovery, that they would break into houses and they would show them how to do it. That was
years ago.
It was so fascinating. It was always the garage. It was always the garage or a loose window.
Yeah,
always.
So
not that I'm advising.
Yeah.
Man.
And I'm giving no techniques whatsoever.
Exactly. No, I think, because you want to pull it away from the news when the horrific experience happens. All right. You want to get it where it's top of mind. Like, hey, this is something I need to put in my budget.
Well, and that's the thing about it is I've got a wonderful vice president of business development, JD Schuff. Actually, he's local. I mean, Franklin,
right,
Tennessee through and through. And so he started with his dad started Schuff Music down in Franklin.
Cool.
He took it over, him and his siblings and all that. He's actually, like I said, my VP of business development. So he is amazing because, again, he can talk to the clients, like when I start talking, I may go down a rabbit hole. He's like, okay, what he's actually saying is this.
I love it.
So we work great together. We
That's
really
good.
do because he's never had any military background, but he's picked up so much that he can really turn it around and explain it, that much better. So fantastic guy. I love him. So the last part to the after the emergency action plan comes into play, and what we'll do is once we do that review, we really want to get in there, watch it, and everything else. We don't like interfere or anything. We just watch, observe, then we critique, and then we'll come back and say, hey, looking at your emergency action plan, this is here's XYZ that we recommend.
Right.
And then we'll help you walk through, correct it, make sure it fits you. Not we're trying to take what we want and implement something that doesn't work for you and your teachers at school. So the last part of that, the last step, the fifth step is the actual training. And this goes for the teachers and also for the parents. So what it is it's active shooter response protocol for what happens on the outside. And that's where we were talking about, when you have your first responder come up on board, you have, the incident commander, from law enforcement,
Right.
fire department, EMS, and everything else. What's happening on the outside to what's happening to them moving up to the door, what's happening to them going into the hot zone, and then bringing everybody out. And then also, what do they experience, the law enforcement when they go in and they see someone hurt, injured, or worse on the ground? A lot of parents are like, well, why didn't he help them? Well, their job isn't for that. Their job is to go in and
eliminate,
neutralize, the threat. So that way we don't have more people like that laying there. So once they get into the hot zone, that's when we, you start seeing.
We don't live in that reality every day.
No,
and that you do. So that's, you can say things we can't think about typically.
The thing about it is education. So now, instead of the parents having a meltdown outside,
of course,
they actually understand what's happening. They can think their way through it. And I think it gives them a little bit of peace of mind on that. And now, of course, they're still going to freak out because their kids are inside or their loved ones or whatever else.
Sure.
But at least they'll understand. And so we also do that, so that we do it for the parents. We also do it for the teachers. So that way the teachers understand, while they're in that safe room or while they're hunkering down, what is everybody on the outside doing to get to them? So that way it gives them, again, more peace of mind. So we want to educate everyone as much as possible. So we try to go from hardening the school structure or corporation, facility, places of worship, harden that structure to education. And so we're also not the type that come in with, you hear a lot of this active shooter training where, they'll don the mask, come in with the AKs and loud bangs and
freak everybody
else.
out.
People go screaming.
Right.
There's a time and place for that. But I think in the beginning, that's not the time and place, because one, probably 90% of the teachers and everybody else and substitutes and the rest of the staff, they don't know the action plan, or they don't know it well enough.
Right.
So now you're just you're
traumatizing.
Not only traumatizing, but you're also, you're improving bad habits.
Right.
And you don't want that. You want everybody, and that's where we come in. We train you from very first step all the way through on that. So
that's good.
So that's our cornerstone that we have right there.
Wow.
Now, is there an ongoing element to this? Because I'm thinking like, it seems like in a lot of situations, you create this emergency action plan, it kind of gets put on a shelf, and no one really pays attention to it until
it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, as you have staff turnover and things like that, and equipment gets changed. Who knows if they're referencing like, oh well, we had this lock for a particular reason, but we changed to this one for
exactly
because it was cheaper or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of ongoing element to that, or are you training them to kind of train the next people in?
It's a little bit of both. So in the beginning, once we work with them, teach them how to do table talks for their emergency action plans, to run, go through their EAPs and what to look for. We also offer, like a service contract after that, which will, again, we work on their assessments. We go back and improve, because again, even though you put the cameras in there, or the cameras have already been there, is there a tree that's grown up in there, or is it facing the wall, or what's the footprint of that? So we go in and reevaluate that, exterior, interior, go through the emergency action plan again, and then and we offer that afterwards, so that way we're continuing that. And again, it's the price, because you asked, like, it sounds expensive. It's we look at what the institution is and really base it off of that. Because if you take take a pre-K, something like that, they're not going to have the same monies as a high school or a university. So you can't have, again, some places can, but we're the mind frame of, you don't have one price tag for one overall, topic and all that. So,
I bet you could, for some of those schools, you could get some sponsorships and things.
Probably,
there'd probably be some creative ways to coach them up.
Yeah, We also look at grants and everything else for
Mhm.
them. So we try to help them out, find grants
Right.
and everything else for that.
But having a plan, I mean, even in the music business, I mean, every time I would promote a show, I would always check my exits. I had a whole emergency plan just
Right.
in case, and that's before all that stuff was happening. But I mean, it was a responsibility that I could be, was
Yeah.
on my shoulders as the promoter.
The interesting thing you said, there's an element of training the parents. Obviously that's got to be done over and over and over again as you have students moving through the schools.
Exactly.
Um, I'm wondering, like, how do you do that in a way to not freak out the parents? Because I'm thinking, like, if my kid went to
Yeah.
school and somebody sent home, like, here's what to do in an active shooter situation, my first thought would be like, why do we need to know this? Like,
Right.
are you
Right.
concerned there's going to be one?
Well, now that it's been in the news so much.
Oh, it's also I think it's preventative.
Right.
It's like, well, you take an athlete when they get hurt, what happens? They have to go through rehab.
That's right.
Well, why not prehab first?
Mm.
So that way you prevent all the injuries and everything else. You build up that body and the ligaments and everything else. So with what we were offering, it's kind of like, preventative. It's
Right.
prehab. So it's let's get the fixes in first in there first,
Sure.
and then bring everybody together so that way they understand what's going on. And it's, again, it all comes down to, it comes down to education, it comes down to training, and it comes down to, getting across to, parents and students and teachers alike. It's like, hey, you need this in this time of age right now. We need it more than ever.
That's good. So. Well, you've got a real assuring presence to you. You seem like you are an expert, but you also have this calming, very, I don't know, just a very, I don't know, just sitting here, I'm like, wow, I would trust this person, and that's the thing. I think that people, when we're talking about such a touchy, sensitive subject, you want to be able to trust somebody. You don't seem like some guy, hey, I'm John DeLorean with. I'm nothing against John DeLorean. I don't know. That just the name hit me for some reason. Whatever Clydesdale, whatever the name is, coming in to sell you on some random whatever. But this is something that you have that confidence and that understanding.
Well, the other thing we do too, that I do, I've got a couple guys on my team that we independently work for, like say, State Department. And so we remain relevant on our training.
That's good.
Do.
Yeah.
So when
you know what's going on.
Well, we have to, because before we started recording here, we started talking about having relevancy.
That's right.
And you have a lot of these guys that when they retire, they're basing everything they knew off of, like when they retired. That could be 5, 10, 15 years ago, and they're still teaching that. Well, how is that relevant to what we are today? So, we still stay up on that. It's like, so with the host nation, police and military that we train, and we did, like I said, 3 of our guys right now, and myself, we've been basically from, let's say, September of last year, probably all the way through December of this year. We have been going over and working with, out of Africa, out of other places. And so what we're doing is one, we're helping those host nation, police and military combat terrorism.
Amazing. So you're not just in America now.
No. So we're also going overseas, and we're staying, like I said, we're staying relevant, because when you take, for example, when you take Africa as, from east to west coast and central, you have ASVAB, which is a splinter group of Al Qaeda. Yeah. So, I mean, that's who we're working with our, with our host nation people, trying to, combat the terrorism.
Sure.
So when you have that, that grasp on reality, what's actually happening over there, and what potentially could happen over here, that keeps you sharp, that keeps you up to speed, that keeps you, relevant in what you're teaching.
Right.
So, that's what we bring back to.
Wow, that's a wide spectrum, though. I mean, even thinking about Africa, there's so many different parts, and it's not one part of Africa is the same. It seems like.
It's not. I mean, everything from terrain to weather
That's right.
to everything else, and even the threats. The
Right.
threats could be, again, it could be,
Wildly
great in
different.
one area, less in
Sure.
others. But
Sure.
it's the threat is still there, just like we have here.
Of course.
So, but so relevancy is
Right.
huge to us. We want to make sure that we're bringing that back to our clients.
So the technologies that you're using over in other countries, is it stuff you're bringing back here? Is it state of the art kind of stuff like even like the fire department? We thought we had a fire. They had a scanner. They could just scan my house and they could see, the heat. They could see where people were and all that kind of
Gotcha.
stuff. I mean,
no, we're not using stuff
are you
like that. I
using-
mean, what we're doing is we're still working with the the basics. Your basic rifle, pistol,
Right, right.
the tactics, everything
Sure.
else. We're just making sure that they're getting the most up to date tactics and everything else. So that's where we're at. We're technology. That's we're not worried about the
Sure.
technology. There's other people that are way better in the technology.
Okay. It's your strategy.
Strategy, physical,
Right.
tactics.
Right. That's good.
So,
Are there typical issues you see over and over and over again that for anybody that's listening to this, they could easily, just implement something and
Pick up the phone and call them. That's what they need to do.
I like this.
Yeah. Don't be doing it on your own.
Yeah. So
1-800 call Matt Wilson.
So one of the things I think I really first started diving into was a women's safety class, and that's all based off of my daughter. And so I wanted to make sure that when she turned 18, graduated high school, went to college, that her head's on a swivel. She has all the
Right.
confidence and competence in her abilities and all that. So I took that same that's all those same principles and everything I work with her on. I turned it into a class. So the number one thing I would say is situational awareness. And I think that is the biggest thing is situational awareness, because that's 90% of your fight. If you can observe what's in front of you and take in what's happening around you, you're able to make informed decisions. Do I go forward? Do I go around? Do I go back? Do I call someone? So I mean, that's a lot of people aren't situational aware, and the reason being is because
everybody's too busy doing this, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So I taught my kids at a young age. I'm like, hey, we go to a restaurant, we go out, anything else, and I even told my daughter, it's like, when you're on campus, that phone is away until you get in your class.
Yeah,
and my kids still abide by that.
That's good.
Which is great, because it allows them to take in the whole, whole area, the whole situation, not only situation, but also your location. The other thing I would look at is having a plan, an action plan. I teach PACE. It's primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. So it's basically you go. I'll give you an example. You walk into a new restaurant. Okay. Walk up to the host. Most people walk up to the host and immediately get seated, right?
Right.
Have you looked at what's in there? Have you looked at, the tables, the crowd, the people, or anything else? What is that area like? Is it hostile? Because maybe you walk into a bar and everybody's watching, a football game and they're getting lit.
Right.
And, they're on a verge of fight, So, it's stopping before you get to the host and just, taking that 30-second glance from right to left. Look at your ingress egress route. Where's your exits and entries? And then from there, look right to left. Start looking at, identify where you want to sit. You want to sit kind of like where you're sitting. You're in the corner, backs to the wall. You can see, everything around you. You can see your exits and entrance, who's coming, who's going.
The Godfather.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Kiss the ring.
That's right.
Godfather
Exactly.
safety right
Exactly.
there. That's it.
It all goes back to the Godfather.
That's it. And then, on top of that, also identifying threat and friendly. A lot of people nowadays, and this goes, I said this even back in 2015, 16, it's like, people are afraid to, guess you could say profile,
Right.
you
Of
know,
course.
like put someone in a category of he's either a threat
Right.
or friendly, you know, and for me, I look at it that way. You know, I'll put you in a threat box until it's like, you know, I observe that you pose no threat. Now you're into the friendly. Then I'm like, okay, that's one less person I have to worry about. And it's just, that's the way I look at things.
Some would say that's a hard way to live.
Well, it becomes second nature to you.
Right.
It really does. I mean, it becomes second nature when you start implementing these things. So, again, situation awareness and having an actionable plan. Those are two of the best things I could tell you right now that anybody, whether you're on the streets, walking from, a parking garage to the elevator, or walking from your house to your car, or walk into the store,
right,
or even driving. As I'm driving, I'm looking at, is there any erratic behavior out there? Is it swerving? Do I need to stay back? Do I, give you an example. Me and my wife one time, we were driving back from, I want to say Georgia back to Tennessee, and we were on a 3-lane highway.
It's a beautiful drive.
And yeah, it is, until you have a truck coming, at you at the wrong, wrong way. So I look up, and maybe a 3/4 mile look. I look over on the very far left of the road there.
Right.
He's driving towards us, or it. At the time, I could tell you is male or female. And I was like, I asked my wife, I was like, is that truck coming towards us? She goes, yeah, at a fast rate. So we immediately got on the phone, called 911.
Sure.
And my wife started giving a description, very, very, there's a white truck going down the road. And then I was like, hey, look, he's going from north to south. He's driving this type of truck. This is it's one individual in there. If you send someone to this, this exit that I just passed, you might be able to catch them at this point. And the dispatcher was like, that's more information than I've ever gotten. I'm like, well, you should get that.
Right.
So it should be, because the more information you give someone, or give, the SRO, give law enforcement, give whoever, the more actionable that is for them to go ahead and prevent things from happening.
Sure.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
I think this guy might be Jason Bourne.
Ooh.
I think I'm taller and older.
I love it. No, he's our age. I think he is. I think he's our age. Yeah. Not when he shot the movie, but Man, my youngest and I just had a conversation about this the other day.
Okay.
And he has these collections of knives and things, and I was like, dude, here's the deal, and tell me if I was wrong in what I told him. Okay, so I'm like, dude, I don't want you picking a knife and going and trying to engage. If someone breaks into the house, I want you to get out. Like, don't be thinking about how you can fight the guy, how you can get as close to him as possible. Think about how you can avoid him, knowing you're even in here, and get out.
Well,
was I wrong?
No, I don't think you weren't wrong. But also there's another side to that.
Okay.
And I because I teach knife fighting and stick fighting along with that women's safety class, along with, how it's self-defense, armed, unarmed, and all that. And I tell anyone, anytime there's a knife present, the best move you can make is run in the opposite direction.
Yes.
Like, wait a minute, I thought we were doing knife fighting. I'm like, there's a time, place for that. But
sure.
if you can get out of there, get out. You
yeah.
No. I mean, look,
plus if they're coming through the door, they're on drugs.
Look what a paper cut does to you.
Right.
Immediately, take the biggest guy, and he's already sucking his finger, and because he's got a cut.
Sure.
But knowing how to, so you're right. Get out of there as quick as possible. But if you're put in a position where you had nowhere to go,
of course,
then you better be able to, protect yourself and those around you.
Right.
And I teach using everyday objects, everything from, like my wife's a, landscape architect. So using her triangles, using, scissors, whatever else, how do you hold those? What are the strikes you can use, and how do you do that effectively?
Right.
So I think that's another, like I said, I think that's another side that he should know. If you have, it's like knowing how your equipment works, like showing up here and say, you have all this fancy equipment, but you don't know how to work it.
That's me.
And don't forget to plug the power in, which that's why I ran off camera just a minute ago. I was like,
nobody knew you ran off camera.
So
you don't have to tell.
We got to do this all over again.
No. Like, it's about to die. I got to run go get the power adapter.
We had a good conversation. We talked about Africa. I mean, you know, the
Everybody
whole
was like,
thing.
"Where'd Steve go? He's off camera."
You don't know the editors may have just kept the camera on him and they had no idea.
True, I didn't think
You
about
just
that.
had to tell.
I
You
outed
just
myself
had to
there.
tell.
We can edit this. Right?
Oh no, we leave the bloopers in. That's the key.
So, but no,
Especially if it's Steve.
that was a good conversation. Now, what I
Yeah.
recommend is if he's going to get a knife, there should be, there's certain knives that I think that are best for certain, certain occasions. One,
Right.
what I recommend for like my daughter, my wife, and everything else is the Benchmade Infidel. And this is no way I'm plugging or anything. So Benchmade, I'm not plugging anything or anybody else. But I mean, this is one of the knives.
You're not sponsored.
I'm not sponsored. I'm not sponsoring anything.
But would you like to be?
Sure. And but I mean, this is
For our pacifists out there, we apologize.
Yeah. But it's one of my favorite knives because it's out of the blade. It's a double bladed knife. It's small, baby infidel. It fits in. Because women have smaller pockets or they have those tight jeans or anything else. And so these Benchmade infidels, when the minis fit in there perfect. And so it's a great tool to have, and it all comes down to tools. And there's a lot of good knives out there. There's a lot of good other equipment that they can on that. So I'm not just suggesting one, but
Right.
I'm suggesting that if you do have something you carry, then you should know how to use it. At least have the basics on that. So it's like people that carry pistols and all that.
Right.
It's like, go get yourself some classes. There's a difference between going to the range, passing your shooting class or your concealed carry class, compared to actual like combative shooting. It's like drawing from the holster, because a lot of places you can't draw from the holster. Moving, you have like you were saying your security team, at your church and all.
That's right.
If they don't get out there and move, laterally forward, shooting in and around, objects and all that, then they're hindering themselves. Like I work with a security team over in Franklin for a church and everything else. And for the past year, we've been working on all the tactics and everything else, and also taking them out to the range. And I'll tell you what, it's improved them tremendously. Wow. And honestly, I mean, their tactics are solid. And it's just one thing, it's like I teach them what I know, because that's the only way I know. Teach the right thing. I'm not going to come up with something fancy and like, hey, this looks cool, but no, it's not that. It's what what I've taught law enforcement, what I've taught military. I teach them because it's combat proven and it works. So that's what I use.
You talked about situational awareness being such a big thing. Is that a muscle you can improve? Because I know there's a lot of research around. Theo just did an interview with Tony Robbins, and he was like
pulling out all the words. Aren't you?
He was like, "All right, look around the room real quick and tell me everything that's brown. Go."
Wow.
And he tries to name a few things. Like, okay, now tell me what was red. I was like, no idea, because he wasn't specifically looking for it. So it's hard to take everything in.
Sure.
Is that something, the more you do it, the better it gets? Or
yes, and that's one of those things that is trainable. It is. I mean, start off small. Like for example, when I was in the Rangers, one of the very first things that my seniors did for me was we did what we call Kim's game. It was I guess back in Vietnam, the snipers used to use this. They take a tray, they put different objects on it, have a cloth, they'd uncover it, give you a minute to memorize everything you possibly can, cover it over. And then either you'd write it down there, or we'd go do something throughout the day and then come back at the end of the day. It's like, write down what you saw this morning. It's like, oh man.
Oh, wow.
But you end up getting better and better because you start thinking about it, and then you start like rehashing everything, start compartmentalizing things and putting them where they should. So for everyday individuals out there, when you go out there, pick one thing to look at. Okay. Start looking at, your doors and windows. Where are they located at? Mm-hmm. And once the doors and windows down. It's like, okay, so if I'm sitting here, I see all these doors and windows. If something happens, I know I can go out one of those.
Right.
And then once you progress from doors and windows, you think that you have that down. Start looking at where you want to sit.
Hmm.
And like, okay, where I'm sitting right now, is this going to work for me? I got my back to the wall. I'm not seeing anything, but is the person I'm with, are they aware of the surroundings? And also pick where you want to sit. Don't just like take the first seat they give you. It's like, no, I don't want to sit there. I'd like to sit over there. Why? Well, customer's always right? So you take that, go sit down there, and you start placing yourself in the most best vantage spot you can to see what's out there in front of you.
No deep booths.
Yeah. So yeah,
we had a power lunch today.
Oh, did you?
We sat in a deep booth with my back to the door. It was very precarious.
It was dead audible to me.
Yeah, it was very precarious.
All you do is look at his face.
Exactly.
He's like, whoa, it's like something's going.
That's true.
So,
it's good stuff.
I kind of hate to ask this question because I want the answer to be no, but has there been an instance where you have gone in and done some training and assessment that has prevented something from happening?
Let's see. Probably some of the threat assessments we've done, which have improved the security. One of the assessments I did was over in Texas. It was for a very big corporation, and I went over there, worked with them, did a lot of their threat assessments of their cameras, of their property, surrounding areas, and everything else, which they haven't had done. And a lot of the cameras, like one camera had a tree that was growing up in front of it. They're like, well, when we first got here, it wasn't there. I'm like, yeah, right. Things grow, things happen. Mm-hmm. One of the other cameras was off, wasn't pointing at the gate, but was pointing at, like the pattern of airplanes. And I'm like, okay, that's doing you no good. Another fence that they had, automatic swing fence, only went halfway. They weren't even aware of all this stuff. Mm. So once all that was picked up, because they were having some high theft crime, right? So they noticed that once they fixed these things, and also once we did a kind of like almost like a geospatial battle space, look at your surrounding areas, and all that, and then picked up where the high avenues approach, high crime and everything else. Once we start doing this and start directing the cameras to that area, and then reinforcing the fences, because you'll notice that when construction, puts the fences up, like say there's chain link or whatever else, like eventually there's going to be some erosion. Like if they put trees up there or plants, whatever, they rip the plants out, what happens? Mm-hmm. That starts creating divots, and that starts creating areas for, people to crawl under. May even give you some, little space to be hidden from the cameras or something. So you need to look at all those things. So we covered all that, and there was a noticeable difference in their crime rate over the next several months. So
he's Kevin Costner. That's what it is. Kevin Costner in The Bodyguard.
I'm staying with
Oh yeah.
Now, you mentioned cameras. I would imagine, technology changes a lot over the years. I'm sure this is ever evolving. We actually had a guy on the podcast a while back that was talking about cameras in an arena monitoring an audience, looking at facial expressions and how often they're looking up or looking at their phone and all that.
It's unbelievable.
And AI is starting to play into a lot of this. Are you starting to see some of that with security, where AI is kind of monitoring and can alert, like, hey, you need to be aware of the situation?
You don't have to have a person sitting there watching the monitors because you got AI.
Well, no, I mean, from what I've seen of AI, and again, that's the cyber and electronic and technology. That's a whole nother realm over there. I deal with the physical, but
sure.
Talking to a lot of the IT guys and guys that do that. AI has had a big impact, because there's a lot of things you can do with it, and they're still, finding out more and more things they can do. And I I think it's helping out a lot, you know. So on the good side, you know, I tried, hopefully, the bad guys aren't getting any of this stuff, but
Right.
but it's going to happen.
Yeah, sure.
But no, the AI stuff, I think I definitely see, that's playing a lot with the cameras and facial recognition and all that stuff too. So yeah.
Yeah, my Ring doorbells could be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Steve's at the door."
Well, it's funny you say that. That still picks up a lot of foot traffic and everything else, and I think it's great. You have I think the Ring cameras or any of those cameras are great for people that live alone, individuals.
It's something,
It is, and I think they should have that,
right?
Because it adds a layer of security.
You bet.
So, yeah.
I think you've probably got enough client base and people that need this that you could do this forever. But are there initiatives that you're working on? Like where do you want to take the business in the future? Is there anything you've got in the works, or what's your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal. So let's see.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Well, actually, I just had a birthday. Just turned 54, so I'm giving myself
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So I give myself 6 years. It's kind of like the countdown to get as much done as possible.
Yeah.
Get it out there, and then really either go for a more of a just managing it, or selling it off and go drink, my ties on the beach. Yeah. So, toes in the sand.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'd like to do. I mean, that put me at 60, and, I don't want to continue, because it takes a toll on you.
Sure.
It does. All that travel, all that stuff, getting out there.
Well, it's an emotional topic, especially when you're dealing with schools and families. And
yeah. But the big thing, the other side of that is I would really, really like to see the iMatter program, really instituted in schools. The problem that I see with a lot of the public schools is because there's so many hoops that they have to jump through in order to get things going and all that. And that's it's a shame. I wish it was, automatic where the schools could be like, yes, let's implement this. Let's get this going. It doesn't have to be my program. It could be something, get those schools safe, and corporations, again, I enjoy working with the corporations because, there's a lot more flexibility in what we do, which could be anything from, providing executive protection training, providing, like a traveler's course, which, it's like, or providing, like a advanced echelon or advon, for corporations, high-end execs and everything else, where they're getting ready to go somewhere. So they call us in. What we do is we work with them, get their itinerary and everything else, fly over, do the same route they're doing, same airport, same taxi or whoever they're using, check out the hotel, everything, do that for the, next couple, 3 days, come back, give them a report, say, here you go. So that's the other thing that I like about, corporations, because there is a lot more flexibility in there. And again,
decision makers.
Yeah, exactly. And we have that custom solution for them. It's not one, so we're very flexible in what we have, because we have everybody from the special ops side to the agency side to, which complements a lot what we offer.
What's the smallest size business you've worked with?
Let's see.
Like, can I be your client? Like,
of course. I mean, we work with the individuals all the way up to several hundred employees. And
so anyone watching this could be your client.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Well, on that note, if somebody is interested, what's the best way to reach you?
Okay, so I've got a website. It's www.specialopscontingent.group. That's
Special Ops
Contingent.group.
.group. Wow.
Yeah. So that's the website. It's got everything on there. You can, it's got for a discovery call, you can send it an email. It's got the number, everything on there.
And hopefully we can have a link below.
We'll drop a link on here
somewhere around here.
And
on Steve's face.
And I'm on LinkedIn, so they can reach me.
There you go. There you go.
I'm on Instagram. So,
That's how we met, right? LinkedIn.
We'll flash it up on the screen
Yes.
too. We'll put a banner on the screen.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there we
Make sure the banner's over Steve, not me. No.
No, but it was a surprise. I mean, when you reached out to
Yeah,
me, and all
yeah.
that, I was like, okay, this is awesome. So
That's cool.
yeah. I mean,
So tell me, I always like to ask this. I don't know, we're probably running out of time, but what was your why did you agree to do this today? Why did you agree to come and talk to us?
well, one, for me, it's getting the word out.
Yeah.
And two, it's also I like meeting new people.
Yeah.
I love to network. I mean, I've never met a stranger. That's the way I look at it. And it gets the word out. It's almost educational,
right?
Because people, one, they get to learn about the business. They get to learn about who I am, and also what people I bring to the table. Again, what we offer, and I think it breaks it down into little stories that they can see where we're coming from, what we've done, what we're doing. It gives them, I think, more personal touch.
That's good.
And that's why I enjoy this.
Right.
So,
well, we're beyond the curtain, right? It's beyond. Behind.
Yeah.
Is it behind? I get so confused. It's like I can't tell you what's red in the room or anything. This is black and gold. I know that.
He's never met a stranger, but he's already assessed how many ways he can kill you.
Well, he knows who's the threat here and who's not. Clearly, I'm not. Oh my goodness! But yeah, we're all about the move. We talk with the movers, shakers, and tastemakers, right? And I would call you a shaker. Yeah, you're shaking people up, waking them up. You're waking them up and saying, "Hey, here's what you can do."
Yep,
I love it.
Yep.
See, this is good. This is good.
Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has.
We do need to wrap it up, but
she's such man. He's so rude sometimes.
But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming. And do you have any last words or?
No, well, one, thank you for having me. I really do. And
it's our pleasure.
This has been great. I hope, more people get a chance to not only watch it, but, be part of this show and everything else.
Absolutely. Yes.
We've had like a seal. We need to get, what are we missing? Green Beret?
I think we should get some presidential candidates.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. No.
Cheers.
I think I cover your special ops. I got the Ranger Special Forces Delta, so we've got that.
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's good.
And you get the SEAL. Probably need a Marine.
We would need him if we had some candidates. We'd really need him. Get us out of here, Steve.
No, it's been,
Get us out of here.
It's been great. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for being here.
So.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, we will see you guys next time. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Behind the Curtain, Nashville's Movers, Shakers,
and Tastemakers.
We hope you've been inspired by the stories of passion, perseverance, and innovation right here in Nashville.
A big thank you to our guests for sharing their journeys and to you, our listeners, for joining us. And of course, our gratitude to Chord Real Estate for making this conversation possible.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform.
Thank us.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I guess I did. Well, thank us. Okay.
Like I was saying.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite platform to catch every episode and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more fascinating guests lined up, ready to share their insights and inspirations.
And we love hearing from you. So reach out to us with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for who you'd like to hear from next.
Until next time, keep chasing your dreams and making your mark in Nashville.
Oh, my goodness.
Remember,
Am I talking to Casey
it's
Kasem?
the people behind the scenes that make the city shine.
I love it. Take care. See you behind the curtain.